Once upon a time, there was a little boy called Howard who loved writing stories.
Little Howard dreamed of being a writer, and so he sat and wrote every night. But everything he wrote was fucking shite, yeah. Wubba-dubba-doo, wubba-dubba-doo. Worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world, worst writer in the world. He's a stupid, suck-ass, rubbish writer.
Welcome to the worst writer in the world.
Hooray!
And this time it's part 2 and final of our Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade retelling.
Ooh, so much has happened so far.
So much.
We've
so
learned
much.
that a lot of women went to university in the 1930s in America, perhaps more than I would have imagined. But
That's true.
I was listening to the episode, I was like, hold on a second.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know the
No,
ratio
there's-
of women to men, but
I mean, there was a point when they just weren't allowed to, right? As you say, I have no idea.
yeah.
No, okay, but what we heard in the last episode was what we saw was Indiana Jones as a teenager trying to get treasure in museums,
But getting a hat instead. But getting his entire character instead.
getting his personality, yeah. And also Indiana Jones as an adult doing much the same, because once he'd got that hat, he's like, well, I've got the hat now and character, but there's still a lot of things not in my museum. I need to solve that. And then we saw him being a teacher at a university, and that's where we left it, really. So shall we pick up the thread where we left off and see if the actual plot of this film is going to start in episode 2?
Yes, please.
So yeah, anyway, next he climbs out of his window and runs away because he is the worst teacher in history, right? Like he could literally just dig up a skeleton and throw it on the floor in front of his class and they would learn more from it. Anyway, then he gets kidnapped. That's the next thing that happens. Indiana Jones gets kidnapped in a car and taken to see a man called Walter Donovan, who has a slab he needs Indiana Jones to look at. He's like, can you look at my slab, Indiana Jones? And Indiana Jones is like, yeah, I love looking at slabs. So he looks at the slab and realises that it's about the Holy Grail. But of course, Indiana Jones doesn't believe in the Holy Grail because it's not like he's got any proof that God exists. Come on.
Yeah.
It's not like he's seen like fucking demons come out of the Ark of the Covenant or watched a man pull people's hearts out of their chest with his bare hands. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm too rational to believe in God.
Yeah, but he's always hanging out with that Gillian Anderson woman from the X-Files, isn't he? And like, they're both very, very cynical.
Yeah, there's a point when cynicism becomes stupidity, isn't there? When you've seen proof 100 times in 100 different X-Files episodes and you're still going, I don't think so, Mulder.
Exactly.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't believe in aliens, even though I've met like 500 of them.
Yeah.
I don't believe in aliens, Mulder.
Exactly, see? Because like, she's done it a lot. But I mean, he's only had 2 adventures before. And remember in that first adventure, he did close his eyes. So anything could have really been happening. He might not have been God. He was like, I don't know what happened when I closed my eyes. I think that like some people came in with a melt gun and melted everyone.
So Indiana Jones does not believe in the Holy Grail, but his father does. All right, so then Walter Donovan explains the plot. That's what happens in this scene. He says they need 2 artifacts to locate the Grail. Basically, Walter Donovan says, I need you to do a looking for bits plot, please, Indiana Jones. But don't worry, there's only 2 bits.
Ooh.
And also, we've already got one of them. Because there's this slab that we've already got half of, and something else, which is probably in a tomb that's maybe in Venice. And Walter also says that Henry Jones was leading the search, but he's disappeared. So that's another bit that he's got to look for, is Dad.
He just points to a dog and he goes like, my dad's just there, look. That's my dad. But no, you're not the dog Indiana, You confused Indiana Jones.
It's been a long time. I've started to believe my own lies, that I am a dog and my dad's a dog.
Yeah.
But you're right, now I think about it, he's only got 2 legs, and he talks, and he's a man.
Sean Connery,
and
right?
And he's James Bond. He's James Bond.
I'll never be able to find him. We'll never be able to find him. He's such a master of disguise, James Bond.
and he's always changing his name. He's always changing his name. So they go and check out Henry's house. Henry is Sean Connery.
Yeah.
But it's been rolled. Someone's been there, tipped it. They're obviously looking for something. And then Indiana remembers that he's got a parcel in his pocket, and it turns out that it's his dad's Grail diary. Bit of luck.
Yeah.
His dad's Grail diary got it sent to him. Unfortunately, his dad liked to write things in code, so it's not really obvious and it's really confusing. And I remember from playing the adventure game that the game came with a diary, like it was really unhelpful, really annoying and confusing. So then they go to Venice because there's a chance that something might be in Venice. That's what Walter said, right? And when they get to Venice, they meet a blonde woman, and Indiana Jones immediately gets his sleaze on. It is one of the most unpleasant scenes to watch you've ever seen. It's so horrible. He's disgusting. The very first thing he says to her, she says, like she meets, like, oh, Indiana Jones. She knows his dad, right? She says, oh, you have your father's eyes. And his first line to her is, and my mother's ears, but the rest belongs to you.
Ooh.
So he's like, I've just met a blonde woman. I immediately want to have sex with her, I'm telling her. Hello, blonde woman. Would you like to have sex with me later? And she's like, oh, yes, of course. You're Indiana Jones. You're irresistible to all humans.
If I were like, you know, realistically speaking, he is attractive and everything, and so like under maybe better circumstances, if I was that blonde woman, I'd be like, yeah, come on, let's go for it. But the idea of, like, you know, him leaving his eyes and ears behind before we have sex is quite off-putting.
I can't have sex with you with my eyes in because then my dad can see it. I can't have sex with you with my ears on because my mum can hear it.
Yeah.
And that's very distracting for me. It puts me right off and I go all floppy.
The tongue belongs to my dog, but I'm going to keep that in if that's all right. But that's why Indiana Jones has got such kudos with the ladies, because he's so good at oral.
Because dogs famously are, yeah. Because dogs,
he's got a really
good,
big tongue.
Really good at oral sex. Dogs, aren't they? Yeah. The number of times that a woman has said to you, you know, you're not very good at oral sex, but here's my dog to give you some lessons. Yeah, so there's a really boring bit where they do loads of talking. Like loads and loads of talking. It goes on forever, this scene. And they just walk around the library talking to each other, being incredibly dull. And eventually they work out that they're standing on a big X, right? That in the floor of the library there is a big X. And Indiana Jones sees this. He can't see that. Indiana Jones cannot see this X on the floor until he goes up some stairs. He's got a real weird eyesight problem. Like, I don't know. I feel like I can see the floor without having to walk up some stairs. Even and it's not even that big, to be honest. The X is not that big. But I think if I was standing on an enormous great X, that was perhaps like 50 meters wide, I reckon I could look at the floor and still spot that.
Yes.
If anything, I'd say it's easier when it's big. Like if it's really, really small, like a tiny X, I might miss it because I might have my foot on it or something. But, you know, big X, no problem. But no, Indiana Jones can't see it until he goes up some stairs because we have to see it. And I guess the camera needs to be up some stairs. I don't know why the camera couldn't be up some stairs without Indiana Jones going there first. But apparently that's not an option.
Yeah.
Then Indiana Jones destroys the floor of the library, this ancient fucking library in Venice. He grabs a pole and starts smashing the floor. But as you said earlier, this is a slapstick comedy movie, so he does it in time with the guy stamping books.
Yeah.
He watches this guy stamping books and he's like, bang, and he's really, and the guy looks at the stamp like he's one of those characters who's drinking and sees something mad and looks at their alcohol and throws it away. He's like, oh, my stamp has never made a really loud sound that comes from over there before. It's never made the sound of Indiana Jones smashing the floor of the library 50 meters away before. That's weird. I'll better keep doing it. No, it's hello boss, my stamp's broken. It seems to be making the sound of Indiana Jones smashing smashing up the library.
Yeah, and I feel like because it's such a great gag that what they missed out on the opportunity is just like keeping that man around for the entire movie. And like anytime Indiana Jones shoots someone or
Yeah,
it's
every
just like,
sound.
wait a second, did a Nazi just get shot in the head because I stamped a book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, and also, like, you think, like, oh, but how would you explain why he's in every place that Indiana Jones goes to? Like, don't. It's so stupid. This scene is so stupid. It's no less convincing if he just happens to be at the Nazi headquarters as well.
But he's got loads of other things as well. You know, like he's got like a pencil sharpener. So like if someone's drilling, he's covered by that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If someone's drilling. This is not a Howard Long
wishful
script.
thinking.
So Indiana Jones and the blonde woman, who's called Elsa, climb down through the hole that Indiana Jones has just vandalised in the floor of this ancient building.
Yeah.
And they go down into some passages.
Nobody sees. I mean, nobody else has
No,
noticed.
nobody
There's
notices.
just
Nobody
there.
cares.
Nobody cares.
Nobody follows them down to, or certainly no library staff follow them down. Obviously, there's some clowns are going to turn up in a minute, but let's not worry about them yet. Probably from that train he was on at the beginning. Those clowns have finally caught up with him. No, they go down in some passages and discover that underneath this library there's just a load of catacombs that no one knows about, with a load of dead bodies in, and no one knew about them.
Because there is like a trap door about 2 yards away that they could have gone down.
I mean, yeah, either no one knows about these catacombs, or you're absolutely right. Yeah, there is an entrance, and Indiana Jones gone. I'll just smash my way in. That's the way I do archaeology. The rest of the archaeology world really hates me.
Yeah. It's like the thing is, the guy over there working at the counter, he's not doing anything that could like allow me to like unlock a door and just like walk through it.
Yeah,
So-
if only he was writing and had like maybe an ink or a blotting pad that had a lid, and he was open the lid. That's weird. Oh no. Right, yeah, so they go down to these passages and start being boring in them. And then we see that Indiana Jones is being stalked by some clowns wearing fezzes from that circus train at the beginning. And while he's in the tunnel, Indiana Jones continues doing thoughtless destruction like any normal archaeologist, going into a site of historical significance and just starts smashing things, setting fire to things. Like he picks up a bone and turns it into a torch. Yes. He's just like has no concern. He's got his objective in mind, and he's not just happy, but enthusiastic to destroy things on the way. They make their way past 1 million rats, like the most insane number of rats you've ever seen. Like I feel like rats would not want to live like this. Like some of those rats would be like, you know what, it's a bit crowded around here. It's got very crowded. I'm going to move on somewhere else. And they walk along a slippery shelf. And by the way, the woman is doing all this in high heels. Elsa's got high heels on. It's amazing that she's managing.
But the rats aren't in a bucket, so presumably Indiana doesn't get a phobia of them at this point.
No. But his dad has. He says, based on it, he's going to say. If Elsa says, "Wouldn't it be wonderful if your father was here to see this?" And Indiana Jones says, "He never would have made it past the rats. He hates rats. He's scared to death of them. Because when he was a kid, he was running along the top of a train and unfortunately fell into a big bucket of rats. And so, therefore, but by the way, in case you're not aware, Elsa, my character is scared of snakes, established in scene 1 when I fell into a bucket of snakes. My father's character is very much scared of rats.
Yes.
The end.
What hat does because Sean Connery does wear a hat, doesn't he? That
does,
presumably he got as a child from someone.
I have not seen Indiana Jones 4 and 5, but I'm assuming one of those has a scene where we learn which villain Henry Jonas got his hat from, right? Okay, so they find a coffin and just open it, just yank it open, and find a skeleton with an engraved shield. It's
tasty.
The exact thing they're looking for. They stormed through these catacombs, like set fire to stuff, smashed stuff, went straight to their objective, found it, brilliant, nailed it. Unfortunately, before they can... I think he gets a bit of a rubbing of it, doesn't he? He does a rubbing of it.
Oh, yeah.
But before they can do anything else, those clowns...
Before they can eat the skeleton, yes, carry on.
Before they can chow down, before Indiana Jones can say, "Ooh, Elsa, do you fancy some tasty skeleton?" those clowns that are chasing them set fire to the water.
Yeah.
So I guess it's
Well, that's
petrol.
a-
They've just been.
It's, well, I don't know, it's 90% rat, isn't it? And they're probably flammable.
It is very much shown that they set fire to the liquid, though. I mean, because like this is just these are catacombs full of petrol. But Indiana Jones thinks fast and turns the stone coffin upside down. Fortunately, that stone coffin floats, right? Because it's got air in it. No, not sure about your science there, Indiana Jones. But they don't get burned alive because they're under the stone coffin, swimming in all the petrol, the flammable liquid. But they've got a stone coffin over them, so they're okay. And Indiana Jones does a little bit of like swimming about underwater to find an escape route, and he comes back to the coffin and he's like, "Oh, I think I found a way out." Deep breath, and then they swim out and they cut to like the piazza where everyone's hanging out, everyone's just relaxing, and then two people climb out of a drain covered in petrol on fire, right? And Indiana Jones says, "Ah, Venice," because he's fucking hilarious. Because he's trying to do the funny line in this movie, but he's got no chance because that's saved for the night at the end. He should have come out and said, "I chose poorly." Right? It would have been better.
Yeah. So this fountain is flammable then, presumably, because it's the same water. You don't want to sit smoking a cigarette on the edge of that fountain, do you?
It's not just the fountain. This is fucking Venice. Venice is a city on wooden stilts. And they've just there's a raging petrol fire happening under the streets of Venice. And everyone's they're just like, "Oh, yeah, let's just go for a little wander." The city's about to burn down. Like they've got no. It's petrol. Who filled Venice with petrol? Who thought that was a good idea? Yeah. And those clowns who are supposed to be protecting stuff, they're all like, "Well, probably okay if we set fire to Venice, as long as we stop Indiana Jones from getting the Holy Grail, it'll all be fine." But yeah, and as you pointed out, Indiana Jones is not an archaeologist. He is a grave robber. Right? That's what he does. Yeah, so the start. We talked about the start of Raiders of the Lost Ark, right? It really does it. To be fair to that movie, it establishes the character very well because it opens with him robbing a temple.
Yeah,
and destroying stuff, and also it's a temple. This is something I realised. It's a temple that's full of booby traps.
Yes,
and there is no reason for a temple to be full of booby traps. It's a place people go to worship. It's like if you go to church and like while you're trying to confess your sins to the priest, someone rolls a massive boulder at you. They don't do that at church because that's not what it's for. The only explanation is that this is not an ancient temple, right? It's a regular temple still in use, and they had to set up those booby traps to stop Indiana Jones coming in and stealing all their idols all the time because that's what he does. Yeah. That's just normal people going, "We were trying to pray." But then Indiana Jones stole everything. So he set up this big boulder. So when he picks it up, it'll kill him. That seems... I mean, this is our 10th temple that he's done. We're a bit fucking sick of him. So next up, they steal a speedboat. And the clowns steal a couple of other speedboats, and we have a big speedboat chase, which is very exciting. And what the exciting bit is that while they're doing this speedboat chase, two massive ships are being pushed together for some reason. And because of a hilarious mix-up, Elsa steers their boat between the two ships that are coming together, and Harrison Ford starts having Star Wars flashbacks. He's like, it's the trash compactor. Oh, no, quick, find a pole. R2-D2, help us. It's like, oh, no, he's not in this film. Fuck. What are we going to do? Yeah, but so anyway, they make it because they're the heroes, but one of the boats of clowns explodes. So they're sad clowns now.
Yeah, that's it. Why are those boats about to crash? That just seems like some other disaster that just happens to be happening.
Yeah, they're being pushed together. You can see it happening. It's weird. It's just to set up the shot. It's like the tugboats that are pushing them together. They shouldn't have filmed them because that's the movie crew doing that. Maybe they're planning to move the cargo from one to the other, and they're planning to do it by hand.
Yeah,
pass it through the windows.
I think the boats are kind of like, wider at the top, though, aren't they? I mean, am I wrong about that?
No, you're right. They are wider at the top.
Right, so if you're in a small boat and you're going through a gap in two big boats, even if they get pushed together so that they're
maybe you're
touching,
all right,
there's probably just a gap still there, right?
I think the thing is, a lot of the narrower bit is underwater. That's the bit you're forgetting. It's not like sitting on top of the water like a child's drawing. Like the point is on the water.
Yeah, it is exactly that.
So Indiana Jones does his signature fighting in front of a propeller move, just like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, and then he kidnaps a clown. So the last clown, still alive, the only one who survived this chase, Indiana Jones has slaughtered all the others, says he's actually part of a brotherhood who've spent hundreds of years protecting the Grail. They're good guys, and Indiana Jones murdered all of them. And that's why they were going to such lengths to kill Indiana Jones. Because Indiana Jones, if he finds the Grail, he will destroy it. He will smash it or set fire to it. It's like while he's looking for something else. And they're worried. I mean, they know it's made out of wood, so they're like, he's going to set fire to it. He's going to use it as a torch to look at something else. Then Indiana Jones says, after the clowns were like, yeah, we were trying to kill you because you're awful. And Indiana Jones says, I'm not looking for the Grail, honest. I went looking for that Grail clue so I could find my dad, who, by the way, has spent his whole life looking for the Grail. Pinky swear, won't look for Grail. Promise, not even if I'm just looking for my dad, not interested in the Grail. I'm definitely not going to set fire to it. Oh, I wouldn't do that. Me? Set fire to... Oh, could someone put Venice out, please? I would never set fire to anything. Anyway, the clown says fair enough and tells him where his dad is.
Yeah.
Because he knows. For some reason, this clown knows where his dad is. And Indiana Jones is like, oh, thanks, and just believes him. He's like, right, I guess I'll go there then, to Germany. It feels like after so much talking and so much dull guffing around, they just went, and the next thing, he just gets told by a guy in a fez, and he believes him, and it's true. So then they go back to their hotel room, and they talk about clues, and Indiana Jones discovers that his room has been ransacked, and so has the woman characters.
Ransacked?
Did I say ransacked? I've written ransacked. But I may have
Because
said
I don't
ransacked.
know what ramsacking is. That's when you just get there and there's just loads of sacks full of rams. It's like, who's ramsacked my room?
Yeah, no, it's been ransacked. And yeah, his room and the woman characters. He checks this out first. He's like,
Elsa.
Oh, my room's been ransacked, and Elsa's has been ransacked as well. So he bursts in on her in the bathroom. He gets annoyed with her because he destroyed that library, and then he grabs her head and force kisses her.
Oh,
Like this whole sequence is like they've been robbed, so he gets annoyed with her for them being robbed and him destroying the library, and then he sexually assaults her. It's horrible, but it also gets worse because, of course, it's a movie in the 80s. So when he forces her to kiss him, she gradually succumbs and kisses him back. So it turns out she loves being sexually assaulted because she's a woman in an 80s movie. Then they have sex because this movie is fucking stupid. They met an hour ago. Indiana Jones has been unpleasantly sleazy to her, and then he sexually assaulted her, and what a lovely romantic moment it is, and now they're fucking. So it's just, I tell you what, I hope she doesn't turn out to be a duplicitous villain later on, right? Because that would like prove to stupid viewers that the awful way she was treated was like okay, because she was the bad person and the hero was justified.
well, that's the thing. No, because if she weren't a duplicitous Nazi, then you could say that actually she does fancy Harrison Ford, and it's all above board and actually quite fine. But given that like she's a duplicitous Nazi, that means she's probably just going along with it because that's kind of her job. So that's actually worse because she doesn't actually want to fuck Harrison Ford at all.
Yeah, or it is worse for her, but it's kind of better from a movie point of view because it's like, oh, it's not that if Harrison Ford force kisses you, you can't resist him. It's actually she's got good reason to pretend to be into him. It's almost a bit better, but also worse from her point of view.
From her point of view.
Anyway, next up, they drive to a castle in Austria because that clown said Sean Connery's there. And when they arrive, Indiana Jones puts on a beret and pretends to be Scottish for some reason. Right? It's really weird.
That's because you don't know at this point that his dad's that Scottish James Bond.
He is, but also he's meant to be doing an American accent. I mean, he is really bad at it. But every now and again, you can hear Sean Connery having a go at the American accent. He's not meant to be Scottish. And also he's not turning up saying, "Hello, it's me, Indiana Jones. I've come from my dad." He doesn't want to be associated with his dad at this point. He's pretending.
So there you go then. So that's why then, because because
he believed in his accent.
We want everyone to believe that Sean Connery is doing an American accent, even though he's definitely not. So what's the best way to prove that Sean Connery is doing an American accent is by Harrison Ford doing a Scottish accent.
Especially because Harrison Ford's Scottish accent is the least convincing Scottish. It's like the single worst Scottish accent you've ever heard. So if the American audience is kind of going, "Oh, that's what Scottish people sound like," and then they listen to Sean Connery, who sounds nothing like that because he is actually Scottish and sounds Scottish, they're like, "Well, he's probably American then." So this Scottish accent is so bad. When I was watching it, even though I've seen this movie before, when I was watching it, at first I thought he was pretending to be German because he's like, he's in Austria. It would make sense that he's pretending to be a German speaker. And then I thought he was pretending to be Irish. I was like, no, maybe he's doing Irish. And then he said his name was McDonald. So I'm like, I wonder if he's pretending to be Scottish. And unfortunately, the German doorman says, "If you're a Scottish lord, then I'm Mickey Mouse." So I'm like, okay, so he's pretending to be Scottish. Anyway, then Indiana Jones punches the doorman unconscious because Indiana Jones is the good guy, and that guy is now dead.
So that's so he can take the beret off now. Then that disguise didn't work. It was just a failed experiment. He
tried doing a comedy bit, but it turns out he's not very funny, and so he punched the guy dead instead because that's what he's good at, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then they go down to the basement and find some Nazis down there. And they're Nazis because they made sure to put up lots of big Nazi flags in their secret bunker. They were the first order of business. We're Nazis in the movie. Let's make sure we've got lots of Nazi flags on the wall.
You know what Hitler was like. He was like, go big or go home. So got to have the flags.
And Indiana Jones says, "Nazis, I hate these guys." So that's some nice penetrating political analysis from Indiana Jones there, who probably hates them because they wear a lot of black and it reminds him of snakes. No, he probably hates them because he fell into a bucket full of Nazis when he was a kid. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I've got a phobia of Nazis after that bucket experience.
The only reason he hates Nazis is because they want exactly what he wants always.
Yeah, there is competition. So then they sneak around the castle for a while. And then Indiana Jones whips himself into a locked room. I don't know why I've written that note, but apparently that's what happens. He whips himself into a locked room, whip. Yeah. and then he gets a vase broken over his head by Sean Connery.
Yeah.
And then I've written a note that says, occasionally you can tell that Sean Connery is trying to do an American accent, but most of the time he sounds totally Scottish, which makes it even stranger that Harrison Ford was doing a Scottish accent in the last scene. And then I've written John Pertwee. I don't know why. It just says John on a new paragraph. John Pertwee. I don't know what the link is there.
Yeah,
it's obviously some note to myself. I'm going to know why I want to talk about John Pertwee there. Yeah. So then Nazis burst in and take the diary from Harrison Ford.
Because he's brought it with him.
Yeah, that's the thing. His dad's all like, "Oh, well, he wouldn't have brought the diary. He's not a fucking idiot." Well, Indiana Jones is like standing behind him looking at the diary.
Yeah.
But then Indiana Jones murders all the Nazis because he's annoyed with his dad calling him Junior. He just takes it out on a bunch of Nazis. I mean, I'm not that I'm sympathetic with those Nazis, but it's again, he doesn't murder them because they're Nazis. He murders them because he's annoyed with his dad, showing no sign of him being anti-Nazi at all. So they run away, and then they find Elsa being held at gunpoint by a Nazi. But Sean Connery says she's a Nazi as well. But Indiana Jones doesn't believe him, even though it's really obviously true. Like, it couldn't be more obvious at this point.
She's wearing the outfit, is she?
She's kissing Hitler right now. Look, she's kissing Hitler.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, everything she's done. If Sean Connery said to me, that woman who's been with you looking for the thing that the Nazis want, and who's been really nice to you despite the fact you're a sleazy scumbag, and I've known her longer than you have, and now they're pretending. And look at that. Look, see how that Nazi's not actually shooting her.
Did you never bother to ask her surname? It's Hitler. Elsa Hitler.
Eventually we realise, okay, yeah, she's a Nazi. And also the guy who hired Indiana Jones is a Nazi. So that means that everyone in this movie is a Nazi. So it's like next up, it's like, oh yeah, by the way, Junior, I've got something to tell you. Something I didn't tell you earlier. I do love Hitler. I think Hitler's wicked cool. I just wanted to bring you here to Austria so you can join our Nazi party. And I do mean that in both meanings of the word. And we can all go around the world stealing treasures that aren't ours and taking them back to our home country and putting them in our museums.
Yeah.
And Indiana Jones says, I would never do anything like that. Okay, I would. Okay, admittedly, I have been doing that for my whole life since I was a child, but not in a uniform. I wear this hat, not that one. I didn't meet a Nazi in that cave. If I'd turned left and gone into the other cave, maybe I would be a Nazi, but I didn't. I went into the Indiana Jones cave, where that guy in the fedora and my dog were.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it turns out that although Indiana Jones brought the diary with him, he did rip out some pages first. So he's not as stupid as we thought he was. Unfortunately, he did give them to the biggest idiot in the world.
Yay, Denham Elliott.
And then we cut to that idiot, who is meeting the professor from Sliders.
Oh, yeah.
And Professor from Sliders helps him helps him avoid getting kidnapped by some Nazis. But then, unfortunately, after he avoids him getting kidnapped by some Nazis, he puts him in the most obvious and ridiculous trap that's ever been set. Because it's basically an open truck disguised as a random door. Mm-hmm. Right? Just a random door, but a door that's kind of in the middle of a street with a truck behind it. and Sliders guy is like, here, just hide in this trap. Hide from the Nazis in this obvious trap, and then the trap closes and it drives away with him it's ridiculously obvious. You would never get in that trap. No person would ever get in that trap.
Maybe there was a big bit of cheese in there.
That would be better if they just mention earlier on, instead of banging on about how stupid Marcus is, they could occasionally mention his great love of cheese.
Yeah.
And then just have a cage with some cheese in. He's like, oh, cheese.
That would be a character thing, wouldn't it? Because we know a lot about what people don't like: snakes, rats, but we don't know what they do like: cheese, murder,
traps, whips. Yeah. So then we go back to Indiana Jones and Sean Connery, and they have tied them back to back in two chairs with this pointless bit of rope around their chest as well, which is really they're tied up, but then they've put rope around their chest just to make it look more like a cartoon. And then Indiana Jones and Sean Connery try to burn through the ropes, but accidentally set fire to everything, because that's the theme of this movie. It's just burning stuff down. But also, Indiana Jones doesn't notice that the room's on fire until his dad tells him. I feel if my room was on fire, heavily on fire, but I was looking the other way, I think there's other signs, right? I think I'd need, if we was, tied back to back, and this room was, really, really seriously on fire, I don't think I'd need you to tell me. But it's all gags again, isn't it? It's all, doing hilarious jokes. Because this is when the film really does become just an absolute farce, because they do a lot of double taking and then they get in the revolving fireplace.
Yeah,
they got which is just the most shockingly stupid thing you've ever seen. And also proves that no one in this film is capable of noticing an inferno if they're facing the other way. Because the fireplace keeps opening, there's this raging fire behind it, and they're all like, yeah, that's fine. I don't know. I don't notice
that's
noisy.
That's where fires are supposed to be, though, isn't it? From their point of view.
Yeah, not if you didn't light it.
It's weirder if your fireplace has got Sean Connery and Harrison Ford in it.
Which they also don't notice.
Yeah. Maybe the guy from the library is there just making some other sound effect that's distracting them. I don't know. Just putting it out there.
I mean, that would be good.
Eating some crisps, and it's like, is that fire? Oh no, it's just the guy from the scene having a bag of Walkers. Sounds a bit like fire. Yeah.
Sounds a bit fiery. There's hot crisps. Hot crisps. Okay, fair enough. All right. So next up, they find a secret staircase. The that you have to press a button and it becomes a staircase, and then
yeah.
escape on a motorbike and sidecar that just happens to be in a handy box, like a wooden box that they can burst out of just for the drama. I assume it wasn't, and he just put it in there so that they're like, oh, come on, Junior, let's get in there, put the sidecar in the box first. Like, why, Dad? It'd be much more dramatic when we burst out of the fucking box. Oh, you've got a point there. Yeah, let's do that. That sounds great. So it's all very intrepid and very stupid. And Indiana Jones grabs a flagpole and starts jousting with it because this film is so fucking stupid. And then, as you mentioned earlier, they go to Berlin and join a Nazi rally. Elsa is there, and she tries to explain to Indiana Jones that she's not a bad Nazi. She's one of the good Nazis.
Yeah.
And then Indiana Jones threatens to murder her while holding his hand around her throat, which is also really uncomfortable. So I'm watching a Nazi fucking rally and Indiana Jones assault a woman. And yes, she's a Nazi, but of all the people he could have, he's surrounded by fucking Nazis. He could have assaulted any of them, but he's like, I think I'll assault the woman.
Yeah, I'll assault the woman.
That'll make Rufus feel comfortable.
And I'll get the Hitler one's autograph.
Yes, that's exactly what happens.
Yeah.
And that's what happens next. The big comedy bit where Hitler signs the diary, and then they get away just fine and go and board a Zeppelin. And then they get off the Zeppelin in a biplane. And my notes get very short at this point because I was so bored. And then there's a comedy slapstick dogfight in which Sean Connery shoots their own plane. Shoots the tail of their plane, and then he's we got hit, Junior, by me. I shot us down. Pretty fucking nailing this shooting thing. Then they crash, they kill some goats, they steal a car from an old man. There's lots of driving and running and shooting. And then, I don't remember this at all, but then apparently Sean Connery weaponizes bird strike by making seagulls fly into a fighter plane. Oh yeah, that's right. He's on the cliff and he shoos them all up, and then they all fly into the engine of this plane, making it crash, and killing loads of seagulls and the pilot. Yeah. But they're the good guys, don't worry, they're the good guys.
Well, we know that this character, it's established, he doesn't like rats. Seagulls, like airborne rats, kind of, aren't they? So he's like, fucking die, rats, die! And so he sends them up to get murdered in space. Maybe
when we see his origin story in Dial of Destiny, we'll also find out that he fell into a bucket of seagulls.
Yeah.
Then it's fine. Then we've got both. You don't need to explain that they are the rats of the sky, which is a bit of a reach, to be honest. Anyway, then we cut to the palace of Alexei Sale. And yeah, Alexei Sale, they give Alexei Sale a car.
God, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And Alexei Sale gives them everything he owns, including a bunch of tanks to set up the next bit. And then there's loads of, my next note says, then there's loads of boring shooting, blah, blah, guns. That's what I've written about this next bit. Indiana Jones knocks over a horse. And then there's a chase between tanks and horses. This is just filler. That's what I've written. Then Indiana Jones dies. Oh no, it's just a fake out. All right, so then we have the scene that you mentioned earlier where it's Indiana Jones is dead. They're all looking over and going, "Oh, it's so sad that he's dead on the floor down there." And then he comes up behind them and goes, "Oh, what are we looking at?" And they do a big double take, and we all laugh lots. And isn't it a shame that Indiana Jones didn't die? And then we cut to the end, the final sequence, the Canyon of the Crescent Moon. All right, the good guys, Indiana Jones and Sean Connery, in case you're not convinced. Right, the good guys arrive at the temple to find the bad guys. That's the Nazis. No one's disagreeing about that one. The bad guys are already there, and they're sending soldiers in to test out, if the temple's going to kill them or not. And it is, because they send a soldier in. He walks, and as he walks in, he walks past another soldier who's already had his head cut off, like he's lying there dead with no head on. But this soldier keeps going anyway. It's like, it probably won't happen to me. But then it does, and his head gets cut off, and it rolls out past the bad guys and over to Indiana Jones. And the bad guys say, "Get another soldier."
Yeah.
Because they're really enjoying men get their heads cut off by magic cobweb wind. No, don't do anything different. Just another one. Let's watch that again. It was so fun.
Because isn't that the definition of madness? Just just doing exactly the same thing again. What is it? I don't know that.
And
saying.
expecting different results.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if the thing you're doing is sending men to their death.
Yeah.
But for no reason.
I'll be like, something's cutting their heads off, right? I mean, I don't even need the book to know this. So something is cutting their heads off. So, like,
Have you tried ducking?
Ducking, yeah.
Not kneeling is unnecessary, I would argue. Just keep your head down and hope that there's not a second blade that comes out needlessly.
Or have you tried sending a tank in? We're Nazis. We've got a lot of tanks. Just send
we
a
have got all
tank
those
in.
tanks,
See if it
yeah.
chops its tank off. It didn't do. It's fine. We're good.
It's such a weird because obviously when the whole thing is the penitent man kneels before God, but also that's not all he does because there's that second one to kill anyone who's kneeling. That second blade that is specifically designed to kill you if you're kneeling.
Yeah.
But if you're right, if you do that, if it were just all you have to do is kneel, you only need a second person to get by that. You don't need any clues because the first guy goes in, has his head cut off. You're like, right, second guy, duck. And it works. And you're like, okay, well, we solved the first puzzle, everyone. It was actually quite simple. Or the second guy ducks and gets sliced in half in a different way. And you're like, okay, third guy, duck and roll. You got to duck and roll, okay?
Like a penitent man would. Like a penitent man would do.
Yeah. If we had a diary with this written in, we'd be able to work it out first time, but it took us 3 tries.
Yeah. It'd be better if the diary just had a drawing of of a Chinese menu and duck rolls were circled, and it'd be like, there's a clue here in this duck roll.
Duck rolls, and so he goes in holding a load of duck rolls and then dies. That wasn't what the clue meant. That was, to be honest, that was being a bit too literal. All right, so next up, the bad guys find the good guys watching them, and they decide to make Indiana Jones be the next man to get his head cut off in exactly that same way. But he's not going to do that.
No.
He's like, no, I'm not going to just walk in and get my head cut off. And so they shoot his dad.
Oh, yeah.
And then they say, hey, bit of a convoluted idea, but look, I've shot your dad. He's going to die soon unless you go and get the magic cup and probably, it's famous for creating immortality. Yeah, that definitely exists. That's famous for making you immortal if you drink from it. And probably also, if you pour it on his wound, it will get better, I reckon. What do you reckon, everyone? That's bound to happen. So off you go. So Indiana Jones faces the first trial, which is called the Breath of God, the chopping your head off of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he looks in his father's diary and he sees the penitent man will pass. And he can't work out what that could possibly mean. How? What's the link between being penitent and avoiding getting your head chopped off? What could you possibly do? Like if a blade comes out of the wall and slices people's heads off, and all those people are all exactly the same height, what could you possibly do? What could you do to avoid that? So anyway, Indiana Jones realizes that the penitent man kneels before God. But the filmmakers realize that Indiana Jones just ducking a bit to get through the first task is not very exciting or heroic.
No, he's not. Yeah.
So, as we know, the penitent man does not just kneel. The penitent man kneels and then does a forward roll before God to avoid the second blade that comes up out of the floor to slice his body into bits, even though that didn't happen to the first 2 blokes.
No, I didn't need to because their heads came off.
But still, they were right there. It's not like he doesn't... The second blade comes right up. Like, you see them together. They're right there together. So even though he's already dead with his head off, it's still... The second blade still would have chopped him up, right?
Yeah. So basically, whatever's in the diary is a piece of shit and nothing to do with anything. So how did he figure out to do a forward roll? He just guessed. There's no clue.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there's no clue.
Because the penitent man will pass is a lie. The penitent man would not. The penitent man will get cut in half in a different way. Is what it should have said. And if it said that...
that would have been okay. Yeah. Now, here's the thing. As far as I can tell, what Indiana Jones did, he didn't just duck, he also jumped. Right? Which arguably makes all 3 of these jumping tests. He's got to jump onto because he has to jump onto the letters because they're quite far apart in the second one, and he has to, and I mean the third one is called Leap of Faith. It's called jumping. Okay, so what God has done is jumping, and then jumping. Only the jumping man will pass. That's why all 3 clues should have been only the jumping man will go. And Indiana Jones should have turned up with a drill and gone, this is not going to help at all. This drill is going to be useless. Why did I bring this? So then he goes over the word of God, which means like spelling the word Jehovah, but he's got to do it with an I, blah, blah, boring one. Okay, that one's super boring. And then the third test is it's actually called the Path of God, according to this. But he calls it a leap of faith. Yeah, he calls it a leap of faith, but it's called the Path.
Yeah.
And then the third test
is easy to pass, isn't it? And unless you're like the camera operator stood at the side.
Yes,
like...
it's really stupid because there's no way this can possibly work. Or I mean, even if it does, all you've got to do is bend down a bit or look at it from a slightly different angle. You just got to move your head a bit, and it's not going to work anymore, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, the fact that it works from the camera's angle suggests that Indiana Jones can just see it immediately. But he makes a big deal about how he says, it's impossible, nobody can jump this. Not even me, Indiana Jones can do this much jumping. But fortunately, there's a pathway. So he goes over and crawls into a small chamber where the single most bored man in history is sitting next to a sword. Because he's just sitting there. And apparently he's been there for 700 years. He's got one book to read, and he's not gone into... How many times has he read that book? Like, he's not going to be surprised when he finds out who did it in that book, is he? He's like, oh, what a surprise. Jesus did it. It was Jesus all along. Fucking hell. So, yeah, the knight gets up, picks up his sword and tries to attack Indiana Jones, but he falls over in a comical fashion because this movie has no idea what kind of movie it is. It doesn't know if it's serious or stupid, and it never, ever decides. But then the knight looks at Indiana Jones and thinks he looks nice, and so is happy. So at first he tries to kill him, and then he has a look at him and he's like, oh, actually, you look all right.
Yeah.
And then the knight says that Indiana Jones should vanquish him. Like, he's like, all right, go on then, murder me, since you're here, have a little murder. But then the bad guys turn up, and the bad guys notice that there's loads of cups there. And the main bad guy says, which one is it? And the knight says, you must choose, but choose wisely. For as the true grail will bring you life, the false grail will turn you into a hairy skeleton.
Yeah.
No, we'll take it from you. And the woman says, let me choose.
I want to be a hairy skeleton first.
She wants to be responsible for making the other guy into a hairy skeleton, I guess.
Oh, right, yeah.
She chooses a big one, and the main villain just trusts her.
I think if I was a villain, right, I wouldn't have got that far in my villainy if I was that quick to just like drink out of any old cup that could possibly turn me into a hairy skeleton.
That this guy has just said it'll turn you into a hairy skeleton. Yeah.
Like, can we get some of those? Get some of those more Nazis. We got all those Nazis that didn't have their heads cut off. Can we get get loads of them?
They can all
in?
go through, right?
Yeah.
He would absolutely do. He's shown he would do that because he didn't. This is the fourth test, and he demonstrated on the first one that he's not just going to walk through himself. But now he's all like, you know what? This movie is too long. I better just hairy skeleton myself and not do the 50 guys first.
Plus, I would argue it would make for a much more amusing scene if, like, you get a lot of hairy skeletons.
Yeah.
Just that room would be
every time the guy's like, he chose Paul.
Yeah.
That does sound better,
God,
but also really, really terrible. No, so woman says she wants to choose. She chooses a big gold one, and she gives Indiana Jones a look like maybe she knows what she's doing, like maybe she's choosing badly on purpose. Because another thing this film can't decide, not just whether it's a comedy or a drama, but also if this woman is a villain or not. It just can't commit to her being bad. They're always like, oh, maybe she's good, really. Maybe she's a good fucking Nazi. So then the bad guy's like, yes, this is the cup of a king. I absolutely trust you. I'm going to take the hairy skeleton risk. There's like 50 cups here. There's like basically a 49 out of 50 chance of me becoming a hairy skeleton, but I'm feeling good about it. So he drinks it, turns into a hairy skeleton, and explodes. I don't know why he explodes, but he absolutely, hairy skeleton explodes into dust.
Yeah.
And then the knight delivers the single greatest comedy line that's ever been written or performed when he looks around and goes, he chose poorly. It's so good. It's so funny. I mean, I forgive this film everything else just for this line. That guy is so funny. He chose poorly. Like, you don't fucking say. Unfortunately, I do feel he ruins it a bit when he says you chose wisely later. It's like you've done the joke. It doesn't need a topper at this point. It's not working. Just keep quiet. Like, we can see that Indiana Jones is not a hairy exploding skeleton. We don't need you are not a hairy skeleton. Yeah, thanks.
He don't know. He's trying to. He just wants to. He got such a good laugh the first time. He's going, well, I didn't realise that. Like, I'm funny. Let me do some noise. Knock, knock, knock. Who's there, Doctor Who?
I've been here for 700 years and I've been working on my 5 minutes. Yeah. Can I do it for you? Do you mind if I have a quick go? Okay, knock, knock. Who's there, Doctor Who? That's my opener. Pretty good, right? Yeah. All right, anyway, then I'm going to deconstruct the chicken joke. Yeah, that was around 700 years ago. It really is that old. But I've got this brilliant idea for deconstructing it, because what if the chicken's actually a ghost? Right? That'd be good, right? Okay. But no, Indiana Jones has to choose, and he's the hero, so he's probably not going to get hairy skeletoned. And he chooses the wooden cup, and he drinks from it, and everything's fine. And the knight says, okay, you're immortal now, but only if you don't go outside ever. So it turns out that the Holy Grail, not actually that good a deal. You've got to live in a tiny room with just a Bible, and then you can live forever. Or not do that.
Or, like, fashion a suit of armour out of the rocks of that place. And therefore, like, even when you leave, you're still in it.
Well, it's the seal. They're not supposed to pass the seal, so you could just take that with you. Yeah. Like, you could get that thing from the library, that pole he used in the library, start smashing the floor again. Yeah. Get the seal out and just hold it in front of him all the time.
That's true. Yeah.
It's like, don't worry, I'm not passing the seal. I'm still inside it.
Just go out the back door.
So, then Indiana Jones takes the Grail and fixes his dad. Right, he pours water on his dad and his wound goes away. But I assume that means that his dad now has to stay in that church forever, right? In that temple, because otherwise, if he goes outside, then his gunshot wound is just going to come back, right? And because they go outside and leave very quickly and the film ends, we don't really see when his dad goes, "Oh shit, I'm fucking shot to death again." Anyway, so then that's basically the end, right? So magic is real, Christianity is truth, and everyone's happy, the end.
Right.
Except, no, well, it should be the fucking end, but then we have to have a final bit where Elsa decides that she's going to take the Grail. She's like, come on, Indiana Jones, we've done it, we've got it. And you know how we've got this big love thing going on? You know how we get on really well and we like each other? Now let's escape together with the Holy Grail. And Indiana Jones like, I don't remember ever having this relationship with you at any point. What are you talking about? And she crosses the seal and the temple starts to collapse around them. Oh. And then there's a lot of jumping. Right? An enormous amount of jumping happens because there's big cracks opening in the floor. And Elsa falls down a hole. Indiana Jones grabs her. But she can't leave it behind. She tries to grab the Grail and she falls and dies in a hole, and there's no Superman in this film to fly around the world backwards to make time go in reverse and save her from dying in that hole. So she is 100% dead. Yeah. But then Indiana Jones falls into the same hole.
Oh no.
But his dad catches him and it's exactly the same thing. And then Indiana Jones sees the Grail and he's like, I can reach it. And Sean Connery's like, did you not just see what happened to the woman? This exact fucking scene just played out and you're going, I'll do the same thing. It killed her, but I'll probably be fine. But it's not logic like that persuades him not to grab the Grail. It's his dad calling him Indiana for the first time that gets his attention back. When his dad goes, Rover, let it go. There'll be other sticks. There'll be other sticks you can other bones you can have. And he's so happy that his dad finally called him by the dog's name. That he goes, all right, I'll leave the Grail, and he climbs out and he doesn't die.
Yeah, and once he's climbed out, he's surprised to find that the dog's there, and he wasn't calling him Indiana after all. He was just talking to the dog.
I thought that dog died 30 years ago. No, I've been bringing it to the temple to bring it back to life.
That's true. So
they leave, and the knight waves goodbye. You know, thanks for destroying my temple. Thanks for coming. thanks for bringing Nazis here to destroy everything milk.
Yeah.
You chose poorly. You all chose really poor. You chose Nazis. You are terrible people.
Can somebody catch me a duster, please? It's suddenly very dusty in my room. There's a lot of exploded skeleton dust everywhere.
I'm gonna die because the Grail's gone down into a hole. The temple's destroyed. Thanks for visiting, though, Indiana Jones. Another archaeological triumph. Well done. You've destroyed one of the most significant sites in the world.
Yes.
Anyway, Sean Connery says, he says we called the dog Indiana. That's a big joke for the end. Turns out Indiana Jones named after his dog. But he also says, Elsa never believed in the Grail. She thought she'd found a prize. Like, but he says it in the smuggest way possible. Like, ha ha, she's dead. What an idiot. Fucking idiot's dead now, ha ha. And they all ride away on their horses into the theme tune. Yes.
Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world. Worst writer in the world.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Worst Writer in the World. If you'd like more, why not go to our Patreon at patreon.com/manbycow and just have a look. What a ridiculous number of episodes you could download right now for as little as $2 a month. It is just, it's a bigger number than I even know.
Wow. So higher than 9 is what you're saying then. Actually, I've got an update. In 1950, the number of doctorate degrees being done by women was 9.7. So that was in the 1950s. So
That's doctorates, though. These might be undergraduates.
Dr. Jones. I assume that they were doing if you're trying to be Indiana Jones, you're doing a doctorate, right? He's not called. Well, he is a bachelor.
Okay,
he is a bachelor
welcome.
as well. So I suppose he's
Welcome
Bachelor Jones.
to the Dr. Jones class, where I teach you how to be Indiana Jones. By the way, I should tell you, I'm named after a dog.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I should
Mr.
mention
Jones,
that now.
Dr. Jones, sorry. Why, if we're learning to be like you, why are you telling us that archaeology isn't going after a map and digging where a cross is? Because you said that wasn't that, and then you just went and did that.
It turns out I was wrong about that, quite distinctly wrong. I'm going to have to review my class now. Okay, so archaeology very much is looking for crosses and destroying ancient cities and finding magical cups.
Whipping things. Very much it's whipping things.
So much whipping. And doing a weird impression of your dad because you can't do your own voice.
Yeah.
That's another part of it as well. So you're all going to need to do an impression of my dad. Here he is. He's American, honestly. Anyway, bye-bye, milk.
Bye-bye, man.
He's a stupid, suck-ass, rubbish writer. Yeah.